Okay, so I'll start the session on online privacy and security. Myself, Priyabhat Dash. I am a technology evangelist as well as a privacy advocate, and mostly you would find on Twitter by Tweet My Review. So this is one of the another sessions on the new group that we have formed on meetup dot meetup.com, cyberpunk talks. So this particular cyberpunk talk is on online privacy and security. uh, the agenda for today's discussion is first to first to understand what is uh, online privacy and security and set the context. And then I will talk about how personal information gets revealed. And then probably I'll also talk about what are the solutions to protect your online privacy and security. So first, let's go into the latest news that we got, uh, which has been in the news for last 1 month. It's regarding the Cambridge Analytica issue, where the data breach of, or should I say, illegal data collection on behalf of Cambridge Analytica that it did from Facebook. And also how they harvested the personal data of almost 87 million Facebook users and more, and tried creating personality profiles, and also did targeted what do you call it, targeted campaigns as far as political campaigns, misinformation campaigns on behalf of Russia and other parties who can pay them money. And the specifically the Cambridge Analytica issue is of great relevance is because it shows the importance of how our internet privacy is today at risk with so much advent of internet, social media, and also of the online lifestyle that we live today, which is synonymous to our daily routines and our daily our the so-called existence. Now, if you look at specifically Facebook is such an integral part of life of so many people, where they to be connected with their friends, to be connected with their communities, to express their own thoughts and feelings. Not only Facebook, probably Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. These are all part of the overall network that frames the so-called social network, through which we keep on feeding actually not only megabytes but petabytes of data each hour, each moment, and each significant occurrence of our life through this social media. But specifically, the Cambridge Analytica issue shows how much vulnerable we are. Also, in turn, for this data collection that is happening to be exploited, and also sometimes it would have devastating consequences. So in the specific case of Cambridge Analytica, now as we know that through its partner organizations, and also in the name of accessing doing academic research, actually pulled in a huge amount of data of millions of users, and actually started doing deep data mining, and also started triggering creating personality profiles, and also started doing targeted collection of data on specific, and also targeted advertisements on specific set of people, or specific what you would say group of people targeted with specific traits or specific political ideas or specific thought process, and actually tried changing the way they thought or tried influencing their opinion. So these are very serious issues, but even more serious issues the way they collected the data. They in fact collected the data through an app which was actually which is one of the partner apps on Facebook called Use the Digital Life. So what is your digital life? And basically it was put forth by a University of Cambridge professor Alexander Kogan, and through his access and his privileges, what he got through Facebook, petabytes of data was actually passed on to Cambridge Analytica. But when Facebook also came to know about it, but the problem was that when they approached specifically to Alexander Kogan, just based on what he said, they actually let it happen for years and years over, and that's where and in fact they didn't do the required due diligence or didn't follow the required data protection practices that were key to actually preventing any kind of data breach that has created the scenario like we are faced now. So this is not an issue that just is faced by Facebook. It is also faced by Twitter, Google, and if you look at the extreme end of it, you would find surveillance states like China or North Korea or many of the dictatorial states of Europe and South America. So these or even Middle East. So in fact, your the compromising of your online privacy and monitoring of your or of your online what you call online actions, and then also monitoring of your how you your opinion, what you give on social media and uh, other mediums, and then also tracking down on your individual your locations, tracking of your locations, and also a tracking of what you do online or offline, even with your phone that you hold, and when you travel from place to place. The amount of scrutiny and surveillance that you follow, you are being that you are exposed to is immense. Previously, it was only states. Previously, it was only specific state parties. But now, even without any state surveillance, even without any kind of I would say any kind of warrants. In fact, we ourselves are providing our information on the platter to the to unknown private parties, who in turn do not have any impunity within them on deciding what is the correct or moral or ethical data practices to be followed, or ethical data protection and security practice to follow. Literally, your data is being sold and resold thousands of times, but we get surprised when something like Cambridge Analytica happens, or we get surprised when our data is get hacked. But the truth is, our data is getting sold, hacked, and that too with our permission. And many a times, the permissions that we give unknowingly, just by looking at certain privacy options, just hypothetically to get the access to that tool, we end up sharing a lot of information. And it is not only true for others, but it's also true for me, you, and everyone. So today's session is just to make you aware some of these key aspects that we are how we are being tracked. Now, many in the IT industry would already know it, but there are a lot of people who have just a vague idea of it. But the length and breadth of the data collection that is happening, I think it is even beyond the scope of what I would be covering today. But it at least tells you where the things stand at least at a user perspective, how much we can know about how to take care or how to take control of our data privacy and security. Fine. So I will go to the next topic. So first, what is online privacy? So if you ask me, uh, uh, privacy itself is an ability of individual or group of people to seclude themselves or information about themselves, thereby relieving themselves selectively. So privacy itself means that you have a control of what you want to share and what you don't want to share, and thereby you have control of your own privacy. So the question would arise: who are subjected to, or who can exercise their privacy rights? Single privacy can be at a personal level, and also based on conditions. Like not every time you can say that I want to be private. There would be circumstances where you may have to reveal your identity, or you may have to expose yourself, which is actually sometimes in your own benefit. And but this is also true that you can't decide what is the privacy goals or needs of the other, and the other also can't decide the privacy goals and needs of mine. It is us who have to decide our own privacy needs, and this is not nothing new. This is something that is coming on from the start of the humanity itself. The house we build, the private spaces that we build, the lives we live, all these are based on the assumption that we need our privacy, and the degree of privacy that we hold is key to our existence and our well-being. So the same, if you take the same line and ethos, online privacy is also one of the key aspects of it. So online privacy actually comes from the fact that you should have the control with the information that you reveal and to whom you reveal. And that kind of control when you have, or at least you should be espousing to have, and that is the main aim of online privacy. Now coming to how actually privacy is affected. Now, I told about online privacy, but how is that particular privacy is affected? So one is you would have a lot of unsolicited activities that you would be approached to, or there would be sometimes offline, there would be sometimes online. Now, offline unsolicited services activities would be like somebody coming and asking your name or asking your phone number, somebody calling you and actually asking for your trying to sell you some product, and actually trying to get a particular opinion or particular informations that are key to you. And in the same way, it is actually happening online nowadays. Actually more unsolicited activity happens from online than offline. Then comes cyber crimes. So crimes can also actually try to take the privacy out of you uh, by doing burglary, or or by trying to do surveillance, unsolicited surveillance, or trying to even, if in fact, robbing you by taking your own information from you, or harming you in some ways also to actually impact your privacy. So, but in all of these, there is also a component of cybercrimes. Cybercrimes can start from trolling to the fact that you are being exposed to hacking and phishing, and also takeover of your online identity. So all of these are also key part of the privacy that or the exposure that you have today as far as your privacy concerns or risks are concerned. So two types of privacy. One is physical privacy, information privacy. But as far as online privacy is concerned, it comes much to do with information privacy. And So in both the cases, so what you are concerned is that first of all, your information may be compromised, your identity may be compromised, and another is that your information is violated. So somebody is, if is actually doing a cybercrime, your online identity, your online persona, your very existence as far as online is concerned is actually violated, and that is what a crime as far as hacking or any of these things can do. As far as your things getting compromised, as far as your online identity or your online presence, that it means that without you knowing, your information is getting shared, and actually the control that you have on your information is actually getting shared with anybody. So it may not harm you directly, but actually the control that you have as far as your privacy is lost. So now question is, what is the sensitivity of information that we end up probably sharing most of the time? So if you look at the one second. So the kinds of information that possibly can be shared can be starting from your the very first information can be your name, can be your company information, can be your information about your relatives, can be information of what you use, or what kind of products you use, about your bank account, your social security. There's so many information that can be actually that are so sensitive to you and still get shared without impunity online. So sensitive information actually is that is the kind of information that may result in the loss of the advantage or the level of security that you have. So advantage can be like your shopping history. So what you're shopping, if it is revealed to a company, he knows about you, and then finally it can be used against you in some other way which you won't want to be. And also the trustability of it. So these resources that, or the sources that you're using, consider if somebody is actually targeting you, is saying that I'm from this your bank, and your bank is under threat, and give me your some kind of identity information you give, and tomorrow money goes up. So that is also a great threat that you may get exposed to. And also there is biggest risk with your sensitive information is that if it's lost, and if it is misused, it is if it is at the worst case modified without you knowing, if your access details or your information is modified, that would have a devastating effect sometimes on you, starting from minor impact to major issues with respect to your online identity being taken away from you, and then even unauthorized access. So unfortunately today, a lot of our information we are ourselves given on our platform, either through our sharing of information with our friends, thinking that this is only between our friends, but inadvertently sharing with other people who are not, should not be privy to that information. So that is also a major issue that people face. The question is how personal information gets revealed. So, to be honest, when we are online, your privacy and the internet actually in reality are not together. So there is always so much of risk that your privacy gets exposed the minute you connect to the internet. If you start with your ISP, so they have the information about your IP address, and also they have the information about about the location you are and the identity through which you are accessing. So they have the first level information. By laws, sometimes they are control by laws and regulations, they are prevented from sharing of the data. But also the same law, but also if there is always a possibility that ISPs can itself start misusing their information, because they have the access to all that data that goes through their gateways or their their hubs, and actually they have the complete access to sniff your data, and also to collect that data. And sometimes if you see, many of the ISPs also implement their own Darwinian way of filtering out what websites you can access, what you can't. And in fact, if you are using some of these questionable websites, then also or some websites which may not which may sometimes even have the business impact on certain ISPs, they would actually try to block that or monitor that as well. And the whole privacy debate that recently happened some time back, where actually in the United States, where internet was no more a utility but actually a kind of a service, a kind of a preferred service. So it actually made internet at least ISP providers give the power to not only monitor from what information is flowing, but from where it is flowing, or to whom you're trying to access, and actually control the speed of the data that is going through. So if you are accessing to the people or to the resources that are with their preferred partners, you get speed. But if you are trying to access services which are out of their which are not part of their preferred partners, they would throttle it. So these kinds of issues are also which may actually not only compromise your privacy, but also the quality of access that you have. Another bigger issue is emails. So you get a lot of unsolicited emails. Sometimes they are blasted at you, like spammed at you, with and sometimes it is phishing also. And sometimes they go the information that they there is also such luring emails with respect to giving this offer, that particular that kind of what you call knowledge, or quick learning. But all of this information that is being sent to you by email, which actually wants you to go and use their service or try to collect some information. End of the day, what happens is that they have some kind of mechanism through which they track you, and this tracking information is inherently can be used at actually trying to get information at a group level, monitoring you, how is your traffic, how is your interest, and other things. But also can be used against you if they are doing a much more lower level of surveillance. So this is also one major issue that can actually expose your privacy, because mails are also your email IDs are also one of the key aspects of your identity today, as far as on if you look at your online persona is concerned. So in advertently, if you are actually part of if you are using your emails also, in fact email services like Gmail or Yahoo, in fact they have the most in-depth information or understanding about you than we know it, because they themselves would have the idea, because they are giving free email services, but these free email services come with a cost, because they host your data in their data centers, and with that data center, that information, they do data mining, and with that kind, at least either for the content or with the email headings. But what happens out of that is that they also track what you are doing, and with that they can very well target you, and either misuse it or sell that kind of insights that they have, and sometimes may also expose you to undue to unwarranted spams and unwarranted uh, uh, freaky surveillance that you may not want to get information. So this is exactly what actually in case of Google that is happening. So Google is in fact not only wants to know so much about you, they actually know much about you than actually what Facebook would know. They know about your emails, they know about your location, they know about your phone movement, because the same ubiquitous identity that you take out, everything is mine, and everything is actually being monitored, that as an individual what you're doing. And that creates your personal profile. Another bigger place where you may end up getting exposed is through list servers and discussion groups. So a lot of groups where you may be going and putting your information. If let's say there is some way to identify you, your information then from there can be built up. Your intellectual ideas, your technical, what is your technology leaning, or any other kind of ideas thought process can easily be taken up from these groups. And also these groups, since these are public, your identity information, your email information can easily be tracked, and from there you can also be a degree of your privacy can also be compromised. Another is internet browsers and cookies. So we feel that internet so the biggest problem that we may end up, or the point from where we get exposed to the barrage of, or we access the internet, is through internet browsers. And internet browsers are actually the first place or the best place from where you are tracked. So through using cookies or through using other kinds of surveillance methodology, your information about your location, the information about your what sites you are browsing, what kinds of what you call what are the kinds of information you are sharing, or the what kind of information you are trying to accessing, everything is being tracked through cookies and being passed on to various service providers. Sometimes you explicitly would be giving what you call your approval to it, and sometimes you may not be. And that in effect actually exposes you to the kind of surveillance and to the type of even threats, because even if you're trying to access a malware site, and you they in fact keep trojans in your cookies, probably even what you're typing can easily be tracked by these tools, and or by these hackers, and that itself would expose the password information. All your private information can be exposed and can put you at risk. Then we have search engines. Actually, one of the biggest threats that we have today is through search queries that we are doing. So anything that we have today in mind, we are not actually exploring other resources. We're directly going to Google and or just searching it. That the problem with that is that we are searching, but we are actually not thinking that these particular information is somewhere lost. No, the whatever you are querying, your query, what information you are getting in those listing, and which listing you are being clicking, everything is actually tracked, and actually at such freakish minute detail that it may end up giving you more information about you than anything probably else. So it is also important that we should be careful of what we are searching, and should be looking at search engines which actually promote data privacy. At least they say that they do it. So that is also one area where what information you want to, your even your search history and search information that you are having, if you want to control that, it should not be shared. There are unfortunately right now very less opportunities. So that is also an area where your privacy information or privacy is compromised. Then you have instant messages, starting from WhatsApp, Messenger, everything. You feel that all of these information that you're talking to friends would be actually under would be between you and the persons you are talking to. But unfortunately, much of these informations are today, unlike previous instant messages, these information are actually being circulated across multiple channels, and actually is being monitored also. Not only your messages, but also there is a huge risk that your identities, your information, and the groups that you are part of are all being shared, not only to the between the service providers, but also to the government. So this actually has a bigger risk of you being compromised than anything else. So for example, today one of the biggest issues that happens, or at least tracking that is happening, is that getting the if you are part of a public WhatsApp group, and if you are in your group somebody does something, you are also getting exposed by criminal prosecution, because this information is also being shared with the relevant government authorities, and that itself shows you that nobody is right now safe. Um, then e-commerce sites. So we like to shop a lot of things, and we at some level we from the starting of the e-commerce boom, we know that our information are like what we buy, at what where we buy. In fact, our credit card information, everything is being shared with the e-commerce providers. So these these informations are actually much more sensitive than because some of the times our economic information, our shopping interests are being shared with these e-commerce sites. And what happens is that these informations, if it is hacked and it is not properly secured, if it falls into the hands of some kind of hackers, it is always possible that our savings, our savings, what you call our financial data, our security data can easily be exposed to anybody else. In fact, even our addresses. So these are the kind of private information that right now they're exposing, and this is creating a lot of or I would say this is also the kind of information that ideally I mean pre-internet would have been considered very secure and would have been only shared on a need to know basis, but now it has becomes a default information that probably in the name of ease of use that we share gets end up being misused. Now the question, the other areas where also we end up sharing more than we should be doing is actually it has become a way of life today to share our real life online. So be it a Facebook, YouTube, by doing vlogging, blogging. In fact, our intrinsic thoughts are there today online. While we may think that this particular kind of information is what is to show and reach out to people who are with the same thought process, but it also brings up exposes us that our privacy is being compromised because our thought process is also being shared with with people who may not be privy to it or should not be looking at it, be it government, be it online portals, or kinds of social media giants who would be scooping this information and actually trying to create a personality profile or trying to get information that probably may compromise your own privacy. So we actually are sharing from our locations, how we live, and how we act today online, which itself can be a big threat not only to people, to actors who are from government, but also to people who may be stalking us and may end up actually threatening our lives. Then government. It is funny thing, but if you see many of the cease and desist orders that today many of the online giants and also many of the social media providers are getting are from governments, where they want they subpoena the information about what you have talked, where whom you have talked to, or you have communicated, what kind of information you have put, and also information about the kind of information that about your identity. I mean, it is literally now scooped, and frankly speaking, more than Cambridge Analytica, it is the government that has become a surveillance state. In fact, governments are today scooping forget about petabytes, I think even exabytes of data into their own data centers, and even with or without these approval from these companies, or even with your knowledge. And these information are not only being used to actually do monitoring of terrorist surveillance, but also or tracking money laundering, but also is being used to track you as well. Like for example, what you are doing, what are your actions, and sometimes they are also trying to get much more information about if you are doing something against the state. That is, if you're expressing or you are even showing dissent online, that is being also being today monitored. So these are some things that actually exposes you more than even yeah, it also exposes the more if you are part of a surveillance state like China, or even Middle East. But if you look at United States, which is being considered as one of the most pro-democratic and more open states, actually it has one of the most draconian surveillance program anywhere in the world. In fact, they and the UK GCHQ have much more insights about their citizens than anybody can have. Then comes the your direct indirect marketing. So direct marketing would be through feedbacks, or through sending email flyers promoting some kinds of tools, or the advertisement that you see on YouTube or elsewhere, or the marketing that so earingly refers to the context of whatever you may be doing at that time. So all of these are targeting to actually getting the information about you, which you may not want to share at the first place. And then there is also very interesting thing is that mobile applications. So mobile applications today, or at least mobiles themselves, are the biggest sharer of your information than you would know. Today, mobile applications, whenever we install, we don't understand the kind of access they need. We always end up giving them access, but the kind of information they collect, they can start collecting your personal messages. They can start collecting your phone logs. They can start collecting your information about what you are doing, and what kinds of action you are doing on your phone, and that itself would put you in huge amount of risks. And actually the biggest threat today I feel we have is from our phones itself, which we use to communicate. And also our employers. So employers by actually they mandate, because how we use our online research. So we are given internet in our offices to do work, but there is also a lot of surveillance that happens not only in office, but what we access and how do we access, but beyond that. Even in fact, our employers are promoting us to actually be connected with their, to follow their pages, to be part of their online presence. But in turn, what they also do is actually they monitor your views, your thoughts, and also try to track you if there is anything that you have inadvertently leaked about them publicly. So, in fact, that is also one area where your personal privacy could also be compromised. Uh, then hacking and doxing. Hacking, doxing, and phishing are some of the most common ways in which a criminal can actually target you, and can actually even malign you, and can also can expose key private informations about you, and that can have really devastating effects. Like we know in Ashla Madison case, we know in case of all those YouTube, what you call Yahoo leaks that happened. So it is so critical that we know what is being shared and what is the threat of it. So now let us understand what is internet security. So internet security is actually a branch of computer security specifically related to internet, often involving browser security, but also network security, and also more general level applied to other applications or operating systems on a whole. So security means we want to be secure from any kinds of attacks that happens, or also our privacy that is being shared, or to try to safeguard our privacy. So there are so basically when we talk about internet security, it is the set of measures and the actions that we take to prevent our privacy and security. So the general ways in which we actually tend to use, or methods that we use for our internet security is, first of all, is network layer security. So at different layers of internet, we can implement security. So there can be security of MAC level, where we can use MAC spoofing to prevent our MAC information getting shared. We can use firewall. So what information comes in goes out, we are able to filter. And then also we can use transport layer security, like doing end-to-end encryption, and also using SSL and HTTPS to make sure that the kind of endpoints that we are connecting to are also secure themselves. And also using what you call application layer security, and also while we are trying to access some of the internet applications where most of them would you need a username password. So by using two-factor authentication or using security tokens, where to access the information, instead of giving password each time, we use a one OTP kind of feature where we use to access the internet, uh, and also VPN or virtual private networks to prevent other networks or public networks to be phishing on us. And also there are many other methods that we employ to implement our internet security. So the common security threats that you can face are hacking, phishing, a threat to internet privacy from social media and search engines and various other methods. Also data sale. So whatever information that actually you are giving to any site or blog or even any of these sites with respect to like Facebook or anybody, there is a huge risk that your data can be sold to somebody else and can be used to again do target marketing or to do some other dangerous nefarious activity which would compromise your security. Then data harvesting. Best example is Cambridge Analytica. It actually did so much of data it collected on from Facebook for its different users, and they did this data harvesting where they created different profiles about you and different kinds of insights about you, and that based on that they did then they did targeted ads, then they did targeted hoax, and they also did targeted advertisements and attacks. So all of it is what is being already followed by countries, for example, Russia, United States, to do what we call a cyber warfare, and also being used by online companies to actually help political parties to subvert or to influence your opinion about them, and also sometimes impact your own thought process, and also create personality profiles and bias. So sometimes your scope of what you could do or you can do in your online life can also be impacted by the kind of compromise of your security. Because sometimes if you are let's say you are accessing gun websites to do your own research, but somebody else has a bias about you that you are only doing guns, they may take you as a violent individual who is probably a killer. There is bias that if you are a guy and you are only looking for or on women dresses, probably you you would be considered as something else, and that's how the kind of bias can also be created against you, and you lose the opportunity of getting the other side of information because the algorithms that work through either search engines or through online portals, they actually are today they're using so much of artificial intelligence that they end up taking away showing you the only subset of information that may look so earringly biased against you, whereas you may not be the same thing. And surveillance. In fact, we are today under 24/7 surveillance. Sometimes we have not solicited it. Sometimes we have ourselves given on our information on a platter where we are surveillance 24/7. So we either know it or we don't know it. And in fact, we have agreed to terms of conditions and also sometimes the cookie policy that we access to these websites. So the problem is that privacy is equal to security. So how much secure we are, or privacy would be that much secure. So how can we? So what are the key tenets of these particular of privacy that we should be following? First of all, unknown data cannot be used against us. So we should make sure that our data cannot be tracked to us. But uh, 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 known data can be misconstrued. As I said, data biases that we may have. So we should always be careful about if data being shared. So is it being misconstrued to be used against you? And sometimes legal things may also become illegal. So sometimes the things that you may feel you're doing legally, sometimes because of your online presence, or sometimes because of the way things you are doing, may also become illegal. And one of the best cases of it is that some of the countries are passing laws that effectively takes out your right to actually do encryption and to do data privacy. In fact, you are today you may and probably may even end up being penalized if you are using encryption and data privacy and try to use them uh, 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 try to be safe and private online. So that itself shows that if you are not sharing your data, it also creates a bias that probably you are hiding something. So that's the kind of mentality that humanity has gone into, and that's why it is more important that we should fight, and we should be more concerned about our data privacy and security. Now, the thing is that how much I would say privacy we need. So this is a very good I would say graph that actually shows that how much data privacy we should follow, and what kind of person what kind of privacy freak we are, based on which what can we achieve. So if we are like normal people, fine, we can still uh, uh, follow privacy, and there are significant rewards to it. If we are concerned, the cost increases. So if you are concerned, we have to actually take some more steps. So, but if you are very cautious, then also the cost is low. But if we are paranoid, and in fact we are dissidents, the costs and the rewards can be also high. So the cost can be that if we are dissenting, that we want our privacy, and we are against the state and against the legal boundaries, it actually becomes sometimes threat to the government, and that they would crack down on you. One of the best cases can be probably the case of Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden, though while the question may arise that he shared so secretive information about United States surveillance program, but thanks to him only we came to know the nature of the surveillance program that government without impunity was carrying on its citizens, calling it their fundamental right. It also brings to the paranoia that we are facing today, that our own individual rights are being compromised, and our own privacy is being compromised by the state to whom we have elected to protect it, and all in the name of probably preventing terrorism or preventing money laundering. And so inherently it is no more that states are for people. In fact, people are now today are being the state looks upon the people to actually work for it, or actually it's the other way around. So it's no more that the people, the state serves the people. So this is one big issue that today's surveillance state has become, and this is what is one of the key areas that as individuals we should be concerned about and should be fighting for. So I'll just tell at a high level where the basics online security, how it works. So the one of the basic ways in which is that you send a private message. So there are two things that happens in case of private message. One is privacy of the message that you're sharing, and privacy of or the identity of that you have. So sometimes what would happen is that if your privacy is compromised, or your private information is compromised, somebody actually can impersonate you and can also share the information. So there are two types of ways in which you need to secure. One is to secure by encryption of your data. So you can use asymmetric encryption, where you send a private message by encrypting it, and you share your public key through a separate channel, and through that public key somebody decrypts that message and he can access that data. Another is that Another way of also keeping your data private is also your identity. So you, instead of sharing your public identity, you actually sign a data with your private key, and then you send that data, and then you share the private keys, the public key separately, and the other person using his public key, the destined person actually uses public key to actually decrypt the data, so or verify that this is your identity. So these are the two important things in which by which you can secure yourself. So some of the key aspects of it are the encrypted public. One is messages encrypted with public and private key, and then you have publicly encrypted, and also you have fingerprint information, which is a unique combination of your data and the public key, and that is which is being shared. So these are some of the information that becomes the basic tenet of public key encryption. So here how usually you use basic security measures as far as online is concerned. First is you send private messages. No one can view but except the intended recipient. Another is that prove that this message is from you. So both of this you can use encryption. So first is that how you send your private message is that so you use a private key where you sign your message and decrypts, and also you can decrypt the other's message, and then it is for you only. You need not share your private key, and also you encrypt and guard using that. Public key is the message that is encrypted to you, and it is for this particular key is for everyone, and it is always shared in the public servers. That's how public and private key is being used. So now I will come to the basic solutions to protect your online privacy. So first process that you can do is cookie control. So first of the things I should know is that your cookies are the first things from where much of your information is being collected by the sites, any kind of site. And hence you should be looking at the what information your data is present. Your password information, sometimes you would say that remind later, but that remind later itself has a lot of its own consequences, where it actually tracks beyond what they should be doing. So you should be looking at sites where what information they are keeping and what other domains they are keeping, and in fact clean it up regularly. Antivirus software, you should have a robust antivirus software which actually keeps you updated on the threat signatures that of trojans, and also all the spyware, and also of the various and also actually keeps control of all the threats that may you end up getting on your PC itself. And also this also is important also to the servers where your services or your internet facing services and products are being hosted. Firewalls and proxies. So firewalls and proxies should be anywhere possible, because specifically it prevents you from the data that is incoming traffic that is coming. So to prevent any kind of incoming traffic that may impact to your own server, rather it would be hit to a proxy or a firewall, and then you can filter out what should information should come or what should information should go out. So that way you have a control at least of what comes and goes. Then is the encryption tools. Encryption tools basically helps you encrypt the messages or information that you're sending out, either through your mails or either through social media or through groups. And also encryption tools can be uniquely can help you uniquely identify yourself, that this information is being set by you, nobody else. And then so there are some other steps that you can do at a basic level as a general user to prevent your privacy. One can be that you should not share information beyond what you should be. And that is very true as far as online presence is concerned. Even people, when you're talking in online forums or you're talking to a friend also online, you should be very careful of what you're speaking, because this is the kind of surveillance because let's face it, we are being surveillance 24/7 online. So somebody else is who is not even private to your conversation can watch on you. He can know what you're doing. So you should be very careful about how you express yourself and when you express yourself and how much you express yourself. Minimize the details that identify you and your whereabouts. So one of the most general way of collecting your location information is through your IP addresses, through your MAC address, and also through your GPS location. Prevent all those accesses wherever possible, wherever you don't want these to be shared. A lot of applications today, by just default, they want to capture your location and try to, in the name of giving you service, but they also end up tracking you. So that should be prevented. Also, the IP, wherever IP information, and in most of the cases you can't prevent it, your IP information or your MAC information. But if you're so paranoid, there are tools for paranoid users where your IP information can also be prevented. Also, sometimes web browsers, through web browsers, websites try to look at key information at where you are, how you are. All that kind of information can also be collected from your web browsers. So there are specific kinds of techniques that they use. So use websites like Tor or web browsers like Tor if you really want to prevent your privacy and still want to access internet anonymously. Uh, and also, you should keep your account information, your passwords, and also your social data, your usernames somewhere very secure. So behind should not be online on some kind of online data sharing site like Google Drive, or because we feel that Google Drive we are keeping our information, or our pictures on something like Google Photo, but actually these information are being shared by them, and I don't know how they're using it. So you have every reason to have mistrust on them. Rather, you take your information, keep it locally wherever possible, and secure. And also another bigger issue is that only share. So you would have a lot of forms to fill. You will get a lot of surveys to fill. Only share the information that is mandatory. You need not have to share all the information, because the more information you share, the more amount of data points you give to the other party about you, and that can be also used against you. And also always use strong passwords. So typically first of all, use strong passwords wherever possible, and also mix them with uppercase lowercase characters. Also use at least 14 digit long passwords, and also make sure that you use special characters in it, so that the amount of hacking that would go into cracking your password becomes difficult. And also keep different passwords for different services. So let's say if something gets hacked, the other should not get hacked, and it should not be predictable. And and don't keep easy passwords, because if you keep easy passwords, easy to remember for you is also easy for somebody else to hack. And also don't share a password with friends. So it is also always it's a common factor that we see in a lot of people, that they share the password for somebody to use, be it to their secretaries to fill their form, or be it to their friends to do something on behalf of them. So if you are even giving to do a specific session, please change it next moment, because you have to understand that the moment you give your information to somebody to help you out, or somebody, there's always a risk that they may be also compromised, that your password goes somewhere else, and your personal identity would be compromised. Many people do not understand the importance of their personal identity, but starting from your credit card information, starting your personal PAN card, or your driving license information, all these kinds of information can be extracted, or down to your phone number. So this information can easily be created using graph analytics and using other sophisticated data mining techniques. Your information can be harvested, can be used against you. And also avoid using the same password everywhere. As I said, I mean, same password if you use everywhere, it's a recipe for disaster, because if it's hacked somewhere, the same hacker would try to find out all your identities elsewhere and try to hack you. Also make sure that you should check the access of all your social apps, because what today we are using is that to make our logins easier, we are using federated authentication. Federated authentication like Google's login or Facebook's login. The problem with that is that how this federated authentication works is that you when you are trying to access it, an app who has this federated authentication, they have a set of permissions they want. But these set of permissions, even for the apps that you're installing, when they are asking for apps, sometimes the kind of apps they are and the kind of permission they ask is too huge. So in fact, you should be looking at what kinds of permissions they are asking, and should only be allowing those accesses that are absolutely necessary for them to use. And also should make sure that the minimum amount of your personal data is being shared with these kinds of services. All right. What are the additional steps you can do to prevent your mobile privacy? First is encrypt your phone. You can encrypt your phone where you can set your with the default encryption settings. That what happens is that it mitigates the theft, because let's say you have kept somewhere, and let's say somebody takes your phone and tries to access your phone. They can't access your data if they don't know your password, and that it's a or they're trying to break into it. Unfortunately, what happens is in our servers right now, our systems right now, wherever you have unprotected data or which are unencrypted, they can very easily be broken into, and the information can be fetched. But if you encrypt the data, or this actually, it prevents somebody who is malicious from accessing your information. And also the biggest problem is that phones are always vulnerable if they are accessed. So make sure that you do your phone encrypt your phone wherever possible. Specifically, phones like iPhone and Android provides these features, so you should be using that. So also look for phone antivirus and also phone wipe and reset. These are some of the ways in which you can, if you are threatened or you are attacked, you can use this. So phone wipe and reset, what it will do is it will just reset all your previous setups and actually bring it to your own factory settings. So by this way, at least you can start reusing your systems, your phone, if it is being attacked or hacked. Then also for using phone antivirus. So phone antivirus prevents a lot of these phishing attacks, or it actually monitors for mobile phishing apps that may end up compromising your information, or may put up trojans in your phone and try to compromise your security. And then GPS tracking and photos. So a lot of times what happens is that if you're using something like Instagram or using like Facebook or Google Photos, they try to also take your GPS information, location information, and that information can also be used against you, because they can use to create a visual profile of where you were and when you were, and what location you were, to actually track you down, or to be used against you if any kind of criminal liability comes against you. There are some other tools that you can always use to be more secure. We thought that by bringing end-to-end encryption, what WhatsApp is actually preventing your information being shared about you. But the truth is that much of your information is being shared with Facebook. Your identity information is being shared with Facebook. Your group's information is being shared with Facebook, and sometimes even your messages can be shared with Facebook. So can be shared with governments and other agencies. So that whole end-to-end encryption that they are promising is actually fruitless. So better you should, if you really want to be secure, rather use Signal, which is a good tool as far as private messaging are concerned. It provides end-to-end encryption, and only shares with the message, or only the person who is supposed to see this message can see it. Firefox is one of the most, as far as other browsers are concerned, like Safari or Chrome or Internet Explorer, a much more privacy-centric browser is Firefox. It has some of good plugins like Unblock Origin, transparent, and also it gives you much more transparency of what you're accessing and how you're accessing. You can also make sure that you use HTTPS anywhere, everywhere. So HTTPS is the standard where you use SSL to make sure that everywhere that all the sites that you access is actually SSL enabled, or else it won't allow you to access. And also it also prevents from Google redirect fixers. So what happens is that sometimes some phishing sites, what will do is that they would you're harmless, you're trying to access something, they would try to move to you a website which is like full of advertisements and full of phishing attacks. So that can be also or known as blockers, pop-up blockers. They also can implement using Firefox. And there are better privacy plugins which helps you, or also you can it helps you stop fingerprinting. So what happens is that your who you are, what you are, actually a unique identity is being created whenever any cookie actually is installed on your on your browser or gets downloaded on a browser. So they create fingerprints, and that actually becomes your unique identity, which is being used to track you. And that is a kind of online surveillance that websites use. So that can be also prevented using Firefox. Then another is Unblock Origin. It is actually the one of the best website blockers. It also stops fingerprinting as far as from the advertisement sites are concerned, and also prevents intrusive sites. There are a lot of intrusive sites that will download a lot of things on your phone or on your laptop which you don't want. So that can be prevented by this plugin. Malware bites. A lot of malware gets installed if you install certain softwares which you want to use or apps you want to use. So this particular tool would help you to track those malwares and can also help you to remove them. There are a lot of tools that help you to also increase your privacy. One of the best email services that is there that you can use is Proton Mail. So Proton Mail is one of the tools that basically makes sure that end-to-end encryption is being maintained for all your emails. Only you can have access to your email, nobody else, and it encrypts all the information as far as your emails are concerned. In fact, your login is also encrypted. So if you're in some of these email services, if you lose your password, you lose your access. So these are good in that way, that through encryption they provide you much more security. Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi Privacy Police. So this is a great app. If you install it on your phone, actually it would control. It would actually stop broadcasting of a location, because what happens with Wi-Fi also, Wi-Fi is a technology that has its own lot of risks that we don't understand. So a lot of times what happens is that your location information can easily be shared. So if you are using any private public internet, through that also your location information is shared, and that can be used by ISPs and other service providers who can track you down where your exact location is, and that is being prevented by using Wi-Fi police. Also prevents man-in-the-middle attacks. So what happens is that when you are using Wi-Fi, many of them are unencrypted. So what happens is that somebody can pose and can actually do packet sniffing and try to look at your what kind of data you're using, and can actually either monitor you or can even impersonate you, or can use the information that they are tracking on the Wi-Fi. So that kind of things also can be prevented by using Wi-Fi police. NetGuard. So NetGuard is actually a Android-based firewall that prevents what apps we can use, what websites, and actually blocks unneeded internet traffic. So it is one of the best tools there. And also you have Tor browser. Tor browser is probably one of the best privacy-centric web browsers that is there. So privacy-centric, when I say, is that in fact it actually allows you to browse the internet. In fact, with all those previous things that I told about Firefox Plus, it doesn't share your IP addresses. It doesn't share your cookie information, and it actually makes sure that even the information of where your location is not getting shared, because it's the kind of network, the kind of Tor network it uses. We will be going more detail into Tor browser and Tor network in future sessions. So if you're using you want to use Tor network on your phone, and want to prevent and to be more secure internet access, where information about your locations and also who you are, about your identity is not, you don't want to get leaked, Then you can also use Orfox or Orbot. So these are for Android, Tor browser for Android. Okay, anything else that I've missed? Okay, so there are various other tools that are you can also use for your privacy protection, specifically from the perspective of passwords. One is KeePass. So KeePass is a very good password manager, which where you can actually generate new passwords, and also you can prevent password reuse, and also you can actually control what passwords are being used. So this is one of the best encrypted password manager out there, better than LastPass as well. Two-factor authentication. So what happens is that passwords are not enough nowadays. Passwords, if you provide also, some of these services are also insisting on two-factor authentication to make sure that it is you. So that either through using OTP or actually by using something like Google Authenticator, where they would give you a kind of a key pass. Sorry, what you call a one-time token that you can use to access the website. So that actually prevents any unauthorized person who would have access to your email address, or has access to your some kind of social account being misusing your system, because this two-factor authentication would usually work with your access to your phone. So until and unless somebody has a physical access to your phone, they can't use the service. No script. So a lot of problem happens with JavaScript. So JavaScript was also useful for doing so much of rich UI rendering, but also a lot of the phishing information, or a lot of I would say a lot of monitoring and surveillance used by cookies and other kinds of tool, or you can say websites collecting the information from the browser can happen also through JavaScript. So you can enable NoScript, which is a plugin, so that you are so it may break certain websites, but most of the other kinds of websites you may do well without using JavaScript. App lock is kind of a lock where you can keep certain set of apps which you want to use. So it actually keeps a log of the app of interest, and it prevents these apps from getting uninstalled or installed, and also hides yourself from attackers. So others apps cannot get that information that is under this app lock, and actually would be, at least later on, it can be usable in case your phone is attacked. Then there is OpenVPN. So OpenVPN is kind of a VPN network, which is an open source tool where it creates a OpenVPN network where you can create within own organization. It is free to use. You can also use certain OpenVPN services that are out there, which will prevent people. So it will save you from your location to be shared. So and also is if you are if you are a business and you want to actually use it between a network you want to create, in fact your own set of different nodes, computer nodes in your network, or between different participants, stakeholders, you can also use OpenVPN. Okay. There is also open source VPN, which is actually can be installed on your Android, can be used, and that can be also used as a way of creating a private network on your uh, uh, house or office. So tools for advanced privacy. So for advanced privacy, when I say is that about messages. So when you are sending in emails, any kind of document or any kind of secure information that you don't want anybody to access, or let's say even files, so you can do a lot of ways in which you can encrypt the information. So you can encrypt using something called GNU privacy guard. So it uses PGP to not only make sure that your files are encrypted, but also it is helpful for also signing your documents to make sure that it is you who has actually uh, created this file, so that if somebody else tries to create this file and tries to impersonate you, he can't, because you have signed the data. Then you have email, Enigmail. So it is basically a add-on to GNU PGP, which helps to actually encrypt your mails, encrypts your files where you will be sending with your email, but it needs an additional email client to be installed on your local system. Then Open Keychain is also a kind of I would say GNU PGP for Android. So this helps you to not only encrypt text and mails, but also helps you send emails using K9 mail. Tools for paranoid privacy. So when we are really paranoid and we are like at the level of where we are dissidents, where or would say that we are so much paranoid and we are dealing with really privacy, we are very serious about our privacy online, and we don't even want government to actually monitor us, then we can use these kinds of tools. For an example is Tails. So Tails is basically a live OS which does Mac spoofing. It also actually encrypts your drive. It also cleans up your hard disk. Once it is cleans up your hard disk session, once you are used it. So the thing is that nothing is saved for later reuse. So this way what happens is that nobody can track you. And also it uses Tor, so much of your information, the way you access anywhere from your location, or how you are or from which country you are accessing, also cannot be tracked. So that's why Tails is one of the best OSs that I know as far as your privacy, saving your privacy is concerned. Bitcoin and Monero. So if you are actually somebody who is online and would have heard about Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency, you would know that if you actually want to do asset transactions where you don't want anybody to monitor you, but rather you want to do it peer to peer, Bitcoin and Monero are some of the best examples of how to do it, doing your private model of transactions. And in fact, you can also launder money using Bitcoin tumblers. So these are one of the best ways. Dark mail. So in case if you are actually so much paranoid that you don't want even to interact with somebody else, but actually want a secure way of only within a secure way network to be transparent to pass on information, then you can use something called dark mail. And another basic tool that you can do is, or way you can use is you being yourself mobile. So always stay on the move. Use burner wireless routers, so which can actually be just burnt once you are used it, and use public Wi-Fi, and always use it with a VPN so that nobody knows. These are some of the ways for increased privacy. So some of the privacy trends that you may encounter as far as 2018 is concerned, you would find much more increased automated attacks using the ransomware attacks or DDoS attacks, which would be much more automated and much more larger in scale. And uh, and they are much more publicly accessible right now. And actually in these particular attacks, you will see much more automation now, so that much more the way to track who actually created these kinds of tools and who attacked would become difficult. And then also there would be much more intense compliance and also compliance surveillance. So you would thanks to GDPR now, many of the companies would have to be all the companies who comes under the who are tracking information for European citizens would come under the impact of GDPR. And actually by law they have to uh, create a chief data officer, and also have to follow key data protection guidelines, and also have to be compliant of any kind of data breaches that are happening, or they will be heavily fined. Also IoT. So IoT, in the name of IoT, what we have done is there are now so much of ubiquitous electronics and a lot of appliances that end up being so-called smart, but their security is still not up to the mark. So anybody who is a hacker, or who is who or people who are engaged in cyber warfare can easily take hold of these tools, of these appliances, can actually use against you or others in form of attacks. One of the best examples was when there was a DDoS attack which used the less secure webcams, and actually used that to launch an attack on a lot of websites. So another is cloud incidents. So as more and more companies are moving to the cloud, uh, 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 we would see that and as we are lesser and lesser able to implement what you call VPN and other privacy firewalls, it would become and we are actually more and more now conducting our businesses on the cloud. It would become much more we would see much more security incidents because of cloud computing, because these cloud computing infrastructures also are actually, they become a central point of failure. So if they are attacked, it's not that only one or two services, but a host of services and a host of clients will be impacted together. So it is more important that when you put your data on the cloud, you should be aware of what are the hacking risks, what are the kind of data breach risks, and also risks of DDoS and ransomware that you may be exposed to. And the most important thing is the modus operandi of the people. So so what happens is that now more and more enterprises are aware about the security threats that they are facing, and they are preparing for it. But as we would be more exposed to more such hacks or security breaches and incidents, they have to be more agile to actually respond to it, and also have to see what is the reason behind it and try to address them as well. Because sometimes you can't address all the issues, and sometimes people are attacking you not just for the money, but also because of certain ways or things that you may be doing. So also you need to address those. And also more sensitization, more training, and much more awareness about security needs to be given to the employees. So thank you very much. As I don't have a lot of people, this was only me who ended up giving this session. So I would expect in my at least other sessions, which I would be talking on key things like GDPR. I'll be talking about hacking, and I'll be also talking about phishing attacks. I'll also be talking about Tor and other security protocols. So be look out for newer sessions each week, and I'm sure it would help you.